I just want to get this off. I just want to get this off my chest here. It's the NASA logo. No. What the hell is with Hondo? I've already mentioned how weird it was in the last episode, but in this episode, they write him to be a cartoon villain. And that kind of bothers me, because when I say cartoon villain, what I mean is one-dimensional who says or does things in an exaggerated fashion to demonstrate that he's evil, rather than for any actual reason or purpose. In this episode, I actually stopped keeping track, but the one that really bothered me most is when he taunts Ahsoka. Oh, are you thirsty? Well, screw you. Like, he doesn't even offer her a drink. That's not being kind. It's not like I think Hondo's a good person. He's never been a good person. But to see him dip to such levels of frank and base cruelty is weird. Keeping in mind that also in this episode, he apparently is totally cool with selling a Jedi, who he has a previous arrangement with, into slavery and or death, threatens her with death. Oh yeah, and apparently he chopped the heads off of people who weren't entertaining enough to him. What? I mean, there's ways to kind of explain this. I don't buy it. So, despite the fact that it's Jim Cummings, this whole episode I was just like, really? Really? So, Obi-Wan tells the kids, don't do anything without help. Now, what I find funniest about that is absolutely the correct call. I mean, you don't want to send a bunch of kids against pirates who just tried to fight and kill them, right? And they're super not ready for this. That makes all kinds of sense. You would only do that if you literally had no other choice. In fact, capitulation might even be a better option than doing that. Like, here's some spice. Give us our frickin' Jedi back. Excuse me, our younglings back. And then the attack happens by Grievous's ship. Now, what I find funniest about that attack is if you sit and think about it, that attack probably happened within maybe a couple of minutes before Rex, or was it Rex? I think it was Rex. It was Rex or Cody would have left the ship and gone off to start the mission to help Ahsoka as well as the kids. But then Grievous attacks. What the hell's with this timing? In fact, I actually found it weird how much of the episode spent on this random battle between Grievous's ships and Obi-Wan's ships. Just kind of a strangeness there. I'm with it. It's good stuff. It's eye candy. I like seeing space battles. It's cool. It's just, anyways. Of course, and then it turns out that this isn't just a random space battle. Because I had a thought here, which I jotted down in my notes, where I said, I wonder how many of these large-scale, ship battles are happening across the galaxy at any given point in time. And then I was going to go into this whole speech about the expense of the war and how the war is probably driving the economy into the ground. Remember, that was actually a plot point in previous episodes. And it makes sense. But then I realized, oh wait, it's okay. They're just fighting Grievous. Whew, thank goodness he's not threatening, right? I really hate that Grievous is so non-threatening in this show. And in general, actually. But I've already complained about that. But then something happens that really bothers me. Kenobi leaves a message for Grievous, basically saying, ha ha, I'm about to blow up the ship. Why does he do this? If you're paying attention, and I was, Grievous escapes with 4 seconds to spare, if we're counting the initial explosion. If we count all the explosions, he maybe had closer to 10. This is not a lot of time to escape from a capital ship. Grievous literally is sprinting to his shuttle to get off the ship, and Grievous can run very, very quickly. Why did Kenobi leave the message? Why not just be like, sir, there's something strange with the engines. What? What do you mean? Well, sir, we're not entirely sure. And Grievous is dead. Anyways. So, the gunships are back. That's good. I like seeing the little droid gunships. There's a scene where they all make their lightsabers with the Force. Now, I've been kind of talking about the whole lightsaber thing across this thing. But I have one last thing to say, across this arc, but I have one last thing to say about the lightsabers. Which do you prefer? I don't mean the metaphysical bond or the anyone can make it. Would you rather make a lightsaber, like, assume you're a Jedi, you have the Force, you've completed your training. Which would you rather do? Would you rather make the lightsaber with your hands or with the Force? I mentioned that because I watched them, and they're all doing this, And they did this in the previous episode too, but it was more relevant in this episode, so I was saving this discussion for here. So they're all doing the broms, roms, rom thing. And I found myself just thinking, I gotta be honest, I'd rather do it with my hands. I mean, maybe I'm just a weirdo, but something about the additional tactile sensation of carefully and precisely constructing something would be more interesting to me than doing it with basically my mind. I don't know. It's just food for thought. And again, no shade being tossed here. I'm just curious which you guys would prefer. So, there's a lot of nice touches in these episodes, even though I question some of the writing. Hondo, Grievous, excuse me, Kenobi. There we go. I had something stuck in my throat there. I do like a lot of little touches, and there's only one I really want to bring to your mind. Well, two actually. One is Petro. Now, if you don't remember who Petro is, he's the, I'm going to go dual Kenobi, and I'm going to be awesome, and I'm going to kill Grievous. He's the cocky one. There's this moment where he has successfully completed his lightsaber. And remember, Huyang isn't even here to tell him if it's correct or not, although he should be repaired by now, but I'm sure getting David Tennant for more than one episode was just not in the budget. Anyway, so they're like, okay. And he finishes it, and there's just a solid several seconds of him hesitating before he finally reaches out and actually grabs his lightsaber with like an almost fearful excitement. It's a very nice human moment, and I wanted to give praise toward it. The other moment I wanted to mention is the Doug. I can't remember his name. The guy who's walks around on his feet, or actually walks around his hands, excuse me, and his feet are the ones he gestures with. The animation for him is amazing, and I wanted to give actual very special praise for how well they not only did the animation itself, but designed the animation. I've always actually liked the Doug as a species. They're probably one of my favorite species as far as alienness when it comes to Star Wars. And I just thought they did a really good job with him in general, and I wanted to praise that. Anywho, so then Hondo's evil, and then they do the circus thing. In contrast to the lightsaber exploding in the last episode, I feel like the circus thing makes a lot more sense. I know that sounds like a strange statement. And obviously this arc is clearly designed for a more childish audience because this was intended to be a spin-off intended for a more childish audience. And yeah, Star Wars is for kids, blah, blah, blah. But what I mean by that is I like this because it feels better written. It feels like a better constructed scenario. These kids have the Force, but only a little. But they do have the Force in how to augment what they already have. So they are able to do things like acrobatics, like jumps and maneuvers that most adults couldn't do, that I couldn't do, and I'm fairly flexible. The ability to do the handstands or all the amazing feats they do. That's great. That's using their strengths intelligently in order to move themselves forward in the problem that they face, which is trying to get into this pirate base. Now, yes, I'm not willing to give it full credit because obviously the fact that there just happened to be a circus showing up, and he just happened to have a previously existing reason for not coming back. Remember the head cutting thing. And they just happened to be inside of him, and Hondo just happened to be super drunk and thus in the mood for a circus. A lot of coincidences piled up to make this happen. But at the very least, using their Force abilities in such a manner is an intelligent use. It's cunning, basically. It's a form of cunning, and I do appreciate that. Next episode, we will see what I believe is the conclusion of this particular arc. So I hope to see you there next time.